And we are live. Welcome to the Richie Hicks Jr. Sports Podcast. Here with two of my good boys, Mr. Ryan Wagner and my boy back home, Richie Dorney the third. How we doing, gents?
Good. I'm excited to be on.
Well. Fairly well.
As the viewer could see, we're getting into some good topics tonight. Billionaires versus Millionaires. I think you can probably figure we're talking about baseball. Got some Hollywood Heirs and Degenerate Heirs. And we're going to start off with a controversial list that was made recently on ESPN about an all-NBA list. As you guys probably could figure, Michael Jordan was number one on the list. But I got some names here that I wasn't too keen on. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar at 2, to me, makes all the sense in the world.
I don't think so.
But fellas, LeBron James at 3? Magic at 4? Me personally, I'd have Magic at 3. Wilt Chamberlain at 5. Just, first of all, let me let you guys chime in here. How do you feel about LeBron being at 3?
So, I hate LeBron as who he is.
Yeah, I'm going to keep my personal feelings out of this too. But you go ahead. Sorry. Yeah.
He is as the second best player to ever get on the court, as far as I'm concerned, behind Michael Jordan. I think he's not ranked high enough. I mean, I think you're Jordan 1, LeBron 2 in every conversation that you have. No disrespect to Kareem or Magic or Wilt, but those guys, they had holes in their game. Other than LeBron's BS flops, I don't really see a hole in his game. I mean, he's not Jordan, but he's a half step behind.
What do you think, Wax?
I think there's a few different categories we can put this in. There's a few different perspectives we can put. As far as durability, he's going to be probably LeBron, meaning he's probably going to be number 1 when it's all said and done in all-time minutes played, points scored. I think, assuming he plays a few more years until he's 40 or whatever. I think, was he 37 now, 38? I don't even know.
Yeah, something like that.
I mean, he's a freak of nature specimen. But no, I can't. Going to getting his first 2 titles on the first team in Miami, and then coming back, I think that 2015, 2016 was really impressive. But I mean, I'm going to go probably. There's only 2 other guys I can think of between Jordan and LeBron on the top 5, which would be Bill Russell, Wilt, maybe Kareem.
Well,
Kobe's in there. For me, Kobe's in there too. Those 5 titles.
This is my thing. Go ahead, Rich.
Kobe's just a good dude.
That's my other problem with this list is Kobe Bryant at 12.
Yeah, that's not right.
Kobe Bryant is legitimately the bridge between the what was and the what is, right? I think he took from the people who played basketball before him and saw more of a grit, more of a toughness. I mean, Richard, you and I grew up watching Oak and the Knicks essentially mug guys on the court.
Yeah, it wasn't exactly scintillating.
It was WWF.
Got him over, yeah.
And I think Kobe had that kind of fight in him, and I don't ever remember Kobe, throwing a flop like LeBron or being that big of a prima donna. I think Kobe was more like Jordan in the sense that when shit went wrong, he zoned in, and when he was pissed off, he just went up and did what he could. But I mean, I don't know specifically who compiled this list. They're an asshole. I mean, it's just that simple. I mean, Kobe at 12 is an insult. I mean, I think maybe number 5 at least. I mean, you got to have Kobe in the top 5. I mean, personally, as far as I'm concerned, I would say, maybe you have Kareem and Magic ahead of him. So yeah, Kobe at 5 at minimum. He can't be. He doesn't even crack the top 10. I mean, and Shaquille O'Neal, I think he's where he's supposed to be. But to make my Kobe point even more, Shaq had a pretty one-dimensional game. He was the biggest dude on the court. It was rebounds and dunks. I mean, they made commercials about his inability to hit free throws. So you can't really put him in the top 10 and have Kobe be a 12 when it's like me wrestling my 11-year-old daughter. I'm gonna beat her up every time. I mean, a lot bigger than she is, and that's what we're looking at with Shaq.
Yeah, the three big men that I think belong in the top 10. I'd probably have Jabbar at 2. I would agree with the LeBron thing in terms of him being the second best player. Kareem played for so long, won 6 titles. And the reason why even a guy like Kobe, who on my list would be at 5, why I would have him ahead of LeBron is more so because of his success. Because I think the one intangible in Kobe and Jordan's game that LeBron has lacked is that killer instinct. LeBron is a phenomenal player, but I always get into these debates that I feel like LeBron is more the kind of player that's first and foremost a facilitator. So I believe that when I think about a guy like him, I'm going to think about Magic Johnson, maybe even think about, before all our times, a guy like Oscar Robertson. I would probably have LeBron no lower than 6, no higher than 4. On my personal list, he happens to be 6. But to Dorney's point, Shaq had the ridiculous dominance during that three-peat with the Lakers, but it fizzled out quick. He allowed himself to get out of shape, kind of lost interest. So I would have Shaq just missing my all-time top 10. But truth be told, it's very subjective because you really could go a lot of ways with the top 5. I mean, Magic Johnson, to me, was the player of the 80s. And the rivalry that him and Larry Bird had, in my opinion, probably saved the sport. And made, Jordan took it to another place in terms of making it global. But prior to Jordan's arrival and ascension, it was Larry Bird and Magic Johnson. And that is kind of like when you had Curry and James going at it every year. But I think the one thing LeBron suffers from is that the NBA is a little softer now. Like even to Rich's point about like we grew up watching teams like the Knicks, who were kind of like Pat Riley's newer recipe of what the bad boy Pistons were. That was like a team that was tough enough to play hockey that was playing basketball. But that was the era that Jordan played in, and guys like Magic. And, Dorney was that Dorney made a nice point about Kobe being that bridge gap because he was the last of that era or any player that paid homage to that era with the way that he played the game. Yeah.
So I have 2 other names that I think should be on this top 20 list somewhere in this mix.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if the round mound of rebounds, Charles Barkley is in the top 20. But you just brought up Steph Curry.
Back towards the end of the list, kind of around 16, 17 is where I saw him at.
So I know Curry hasn't been playing for a long time, but he's again a guy who's transitioned this game in a different way. He's unbelievable.
He might be the greatest shooter ever, greatest pure shooter.
And then to that point, back to the Knicks and the stab in the heart. I mean, if you bring Curry into the top 20 mix, Reggie Miller's got to be in here somewhere too.
I as much of a great shooter as Curry is, my one and it's not a knock on Curry's game. It's more a knock on the way the game is played today. I feel that there's less pressure threes in terms of, the hands.
He's so far behind the line most of the time. Go ahead. Yeah.
I mean, defense is different now. Some of it is the style of play. I mean, in the era of basketball we grew up on watching, you weren't seeing big men shoot threes unless it was desperation, or you had the occasional big man that had a pretty arc, like say a Patrick Ewing, who could shoot from long range. He just didn't make a habit of it.
except when he was
But,
in the playoffs, they hit a skyhook.
Yeah. But in today's game, it's different. More guys playing iso ball, more guys playing just out of their minds behind the line. I mean, it's part of the NBA culture now that the 2-for-1 aspect of it of shooting more threes. But I would argue, to Rich's point, to say that in the era that Reggie Miller played in, much more physical, the hand checking rule definitely changed a lot of things to help out offenses. A lot of rules. You really revisit.
Checking to elbow only, and then yeah,
it's just not as physical. There's no denying that, and that's why with the whole flapping with LeBron, I actually sometimes think that hurts his legacy a little. When he gets slapped, he does like that Vlade Divac kind of fall where you would have thought Ivan Drago punched him or something. I mean, LeBron. I'm sorry, dude. I'm sorry.
So just to play devil's advocate here for a minute, we talked about Shaq kind of having one dimension to his game, right? So if he wasn't a big man, what's he doing? I think your argument or our argument for Shaq in a positive is your argument against Steph Curry, right? It's because he's kind of one-dimensional, but is he? I mean, he's a facilitator. He passes the ball when he needs to. But, I think maybe if he played another 5 seasons and had a couple more rings on his fingers, we'd be having a different conversation. And I also think Steph is the one guy who you can't hold the whole super team bullshit against because he's not gone anywhere to be with anybody else. They've gone to him.
Kevin Durant joined him, and then went to Brooklyn and more super team action. But Curry was drafted by that team.
I'm sorry, he went where?
He went to Brooklyn after.
There's a basketball team in Brooklyn. No, there's only one team in New York.
Yeah, they got uniforms and everything. It's really great.
I heard nothing about that.
I know. But Kevin Durant didn't win one until joining his super team. Similar to LeBron, I think LeBron did a little, reputation repair by going back to Cleveland and breaking that streak, winning their first championship. LeBron's a phenomenal player. Anybody that can make an impact on 3 different organizations is obviously great. I think that when you go back to 80s, 90s basketball, you always associated a player with the uniform they wore. Finishing your career where you started was a much bigger deal to a lot of players back then. Reggie Miller, Patrick Ewing, Karl Malone, John Stockton, Charles Barkley. A lot of guys who were great. Barkley did move around a little later in his career. He did move around later in his career, but
we won't count Patrick Ewing with the Magic either, right?
No, not at all. when moving around, though, he was still a top 2 or 3 player in the league. It wasn't like when he went to Phoenix, he was an MVP. When he was in Philly, he was a hell of a player. Ewing got traded when he got old. That was more about just that was just weird and all.
That's kind of like Shaq going to Phoenix and all these other teams at the very one team 1 year. We don't really count those. It's his majority prime years.
In another uniform that wasn't a Bulls uniform was always strange.
I think in '93, Barkley was actually the MVP when he was in Phoenix that year.
Barkley
I believe
from Philadelphia to Phoenix, and where did he end up? Houston.
Yeah, and I think that's where it ended. Yeah, he was there with actually Olajuwon and Pippen, but it didn't work out. That's one of those times when a big 3 doesn't work out. Because, you look at what happens with the Lakers now. Russell Westbrook's there. They're having a lot of issues being competitive. You can forget about title contenders. Some years back, Malone and Peyton joining the Lakers. Same thing happened there. You can't overlook the emphasis of team. That's why the best team wins sometimes, not the best players.
Well, it's funny that you said it too, because the other thing I was going to make mention of here that I love that they're so close together is, they got Karl Malone at 16 and Stockton at 19. And, I mean, there was a good stretch where you didn't mention either of them without the other one. And I think that's why they're on this list. I mean, they may be, because Jordan had a different cast around him here and there. I mean, he had Pippen all the time and Rodman, but I think as a 1-2, those guys were flow watching them play together.
Well, the thing is, a lot of guys, their greatness sometimes gets overlooked or forgotten because of the fact that Michael Jordan was so dominant in the 90s. I mean, who could say they got the best of Mike? Larry Bird? That's about it. It's a very short list. And when Larry Bird was beating down Mike, he kind of had a homegrown super team, if you would. Guys that were drafted that all ended up being like, Hall of Fame caliber guys. Dennis Johnson, Kevin McHale, Robert Parrish, homegrown, talented, excellent players. But, the Bulls' turn didn't really happen until they got Pippen and then eventually Horace Grant, Phil Jackson over Doug Collins. But, yeah, it's the age of the super team, and you're even seeing it bleed over into the NFL now. So while I don't always think it's sustainable, because there's a lot with a lot of big contracts comes a lot of ego, for the short return, it has proven to be good.
The cool thing about the NFL super team, though, is the checks and balances with the salary cap. So those guys understanding that if they want to run it back, like the Rams just said, they spread the wealth, they keep everybody happy, they keep going.
Yeah, and they might, and Odell getting hurt might have actually done them a favor. So now if they bring him back, it's at a discount. All right.
I mean, the super team in basketball is, you see that it rarely works anymore. I mean, these guys look, Brooklyn, Harden. I mean, enough said.
What a disaster that was.
Harden's about that nature. I feel that in the long run, Brooklyn won that deal, but I don't think anybody gets better right now. Brooklyn's got their share of injuries. I feel that Harden just doesn't really – I don't think playing basketball is his main objective anymore. I really don't.
An Adidas sponsor and walking in at halftime with his brand new hoodie on so that he can tell everybody that he's supporting Adidas.
And I also don't think he was a big –
my favorite thing is, I don't know why the teams that he's left hasn't picked up on this to troll him yet. But, I mean, you guys seen what he looks like without his beard, right?
I haven't seen any baby pictures of him.
No, actually, no.
He looks like a Jim Henson Muppet. Like, if you really wanted to troll Harden, like, when he comes back to Brooklyn, I'd be back there with, like, pictures of him without his beard because he hates it. And it's hilarious. You should look it up. He looks like a Muppet.
That's awesome.
Like there's a dude with his hand up his ass having him talk. That's what he looks like. That's just my opinion.
This Google James Harden, like what? I don't know. He's had a beard his rookie year, so maybe what? Where did he go to school? Arizona State. Maybe his college days. Look at that.
Well, speaking of a guy who doesn't want to play basketball, we're going to talk about guys that we really hope want to play baseball. Collective bargaining agreement. Before I even start here, I guess it's kind of a dumb question on a certain level, but why didn't they start thinking about this before it got to this point? Like maybe in 2019, pre-pandemic. Hey guys, the CBA is running out. Are we just going to wait and allow what happened in 1994 to possibly happen again? Because 1994 almost finished baseball for good. The NHL was at its most popular during the mid-90s. The NBA was in a good place, being led by Michael Jordan and a lot of the other players that we mentioned. And the NFL has always been a force, no matter what the decade. And baseball cannot afford to go back there again. You're talking about just being 2 years removed from the shortest season in MLB history, where Rich and I recall this conversation. We both kind of agreed that we didn't want our respective teams, the Yankees or Mets, to win because it just wouldn't be looked at the right way. I know if my team won, I'd be getting a lot of shit from him, being a Met fan.
I would have sent you like Yankees World Series championship shirts cut in half. You would have been walking around with a belly shirt on. Half a season, half a shirt.
Nah, but the Dodgers could keep that one.
But as a Mets fan, I couldn't accept a World Series. I would have never been able to live it down. Could you imagine everybody else, Yankee fans in New York, who rip on me for being a Mets fan, telling me you have 2.5 World Series? I'd lose my mind.
Yeah. Like if it's not bad enough that you've been waiting since '86, and then when you win one, it's not a full season. Yeah.
So you said, why did they wait until now, right? And there's one word. It's called leverage. If they started a conversation 2, 3, 4 months ago, 5 months ago, the who's to blame shenanigans that's going on in the media is gone, right? So leverage, Manfred is turning around saying it's the players turning around saying, if there was more time, then the conversation gets had, well, we said this 6 months ago. So it's not like they just found out about it. And then you could really point fingers. This way it's a coin flip every day of who the asshole is in this conversation.
And it seems like it's going to be tough because while it's hard for me to have empathy for either side, at the end of the day, the owners, the sport itself, that's the billionaire territory. And, I do wholeheartedly believe that most of the guys really just do want to play. But they want things to be reasonable. And I do think that this particular situation pales in comparison in that regard to what happened in '94. Because in '94, I do believe that it was a lot more greed-driven on the players' part. At least that was my perspective of what happened there. But I'm a little concerned. I am very concerned, actually, that we're going to miss a big chunk of this year. And I don't think the sport could afford it.
So there's a lot of things going on here. Wax, you have a favorite baseball team?
Cubs.
Perfect.
Yeah. And I'm a big fan of the record books too. So, I mean, 1994, you mentioned that. What a disaster that was. I mean, you got NBA has a hole in it because, especially I'm a Bulls fan, of course, so we won't talk about the 1990s, basketball thing. I didn't want to bring that up earlier, but now that we're on to baseball, you got Jordan as playing for the Birmingham Barons.
Francona led
NBA, NHL. It's June or mid-June. Both of those seasons end, and now we got the only sport around of the four into the summer is baseball. You got Matt Williams, King Griffey Jr. I think it was Big Hurt chasing the record. They were on pace, all three of them, to at that point hit Roger Maris's 61 home run record at the time. But we all kind of knew as August rolled around, like, it's about to come to an end. It's about to come to an end. And just my heart broke. We're all 15-year-old kid, man. That's all I had going for me at the moment was freaking watching baseball every freaking afternoon in summer. So yeah,
the guy might have had a shiny ring.
Yeah, and like as far as the Cubs, man, I'm baseball. I'm butthurt on baseball anyway. After we traded all our stars, we didn't even try to get anybody. We had one 11-game losing streak in the middle of last year, and then we just got rid of Baez, got rid of Bryant, got rid of Rizzo, and all three of those guys have re-signed with their teams or somewhere else. We're not getting those guys back. I've never even heard of the guys in our lineup. So you guys do the baseball. I'll chip in every now and then, but yeah, you're doing great.
So there's a bunch of things going on here.
On my face as we talk about baseball.
I am a baseball degenerate. I am unfortunately a New York Mets fan, but I love baseball. And so the way I had the number before and I forgot to write it down. Somewhere between $10 and $11 billion, right, in profit last season. Right? So when you take that, you break it out per team, right? There are a lot of things that the players are saying that make a lot of sense. So 40 plus, or maybe more at this point, minor league teams have been done away with, just completely. Right? So players are asking for more money to start to trickle down from the bottom, so that these guys can make a living wage, have something more. I mean, you all heard the stories. Billy Wagner talks about, eating potatoes and cream corn in a can, all these different stories of what these guys had to go through in the minor leagues. I have an old boss.
Kicked around the minors for years.
Who was that?
My grandfather kicked around the minors. Big Yogi, and
he
imagine
he was a big man, so I don't know what they were playing. It's you're from the MLB owner's perspective. Why would you want to give anything up? You have a perfect system that's worked for you for years. they call it the farm system, and there's not a better word for it. It's literally like just growing players and throwing, water and whatever, manure, and getting it in there. You're not giving them anything. So these guys are struggling, and it's the need to push harder to get there or to make money that gets them to go. I don't believe that, giving someone enough to be fed, to pay rent. A lot of these guys have wives and kids. Richard and I were talking about this with the minor league guys, right? If you commit 5, 6, 7 years to this, that's also, and it doesn't work out for you, and you've not made anything financially that's going to help you in the future. Not only have you given up the time towards baseball, but you give them the time towards potentially whatever else you went to college for, or whatever else you were going to do. So if you went and got a degree in X, there's 7 years that you didn't put towards that. So when you get into that world, or you get somewhere and start over,
ready there now.
You're here. You're back at college graduate level, trying to get into, wherever you are. You're set behind, and there's nothing there for these guys. So, you get guys like Scherzer. I read somewhere if every day that the lockout goes into the season, he'll lose like $235,000 a day. That's a lot of money. I wish I had the ability to lose $235,000 a day. And he said, it's not about me, it's about the guys, right? So that's a big sticking point with them, is trying to have some of that dollars trickle down and the minimum salary come up.
I think it speaks volumes that some of the faces of the league feel this strongly, because the minor leagues it's not even, to your point, which is a good one, literally the farm system of how, you bring your talent up. But what people fail to realize, we're from big cities, Wags, where you're from, where me and Rich are from. There's a lot of small towns that live and die with the minor league games.
They're gone now.
That is such a huge part, a just iconic part of so many little towns. And it's the purity of a true love for the game that they're also extinguishing. And that is just all kinds of shit.
Restaurants within walking distance of those stadiums. It's the liquor stores. It's the motels. It's the the road stands. It's whatever else. All that gets affected. And so again, the very rich made a decision to make it that will be less of these. So they blame the pandemic. They blame COVID. They blame a lot of different things. But the reality of it is that they freed up money in a way that made sense for them. So that money didn't come out of their pockets. They still haven't made concessions. They still haven't had to lose anything. They took money from one place and brought it to another. So that was that, right? Then, Scherzer, a big sticking point with Scherzer, talking about him, is, teams tanking, right?
Yeah.
Look at the Orioles. The Orioles, $10.4 million in payroll. Did anybody see how much Max Scherzer gets paid in a year?
Yeah.
I'm sorry if I've misquoted that number, but that's pretty accurate. There's like 14 teams, it's crazy. It's crazy, if you think about, right, how infrequently those teams come around. Like, when was the last time the Orioles were relevant? When Crush Davis was, hitting home run?
10 years ago. Yeah, they made the playoffs, but they didn't go anywhere with Buck Showalter. But yeah,
the Reds, the Pirates, the Rays are an anomaly because
the Pirates haven't been right since they had a little bit of shine with McCutchen.
Yeah.
Before then, you got to go all the way back to Bobby Bowe and Barry Bonds. You got to go that far back. Doug Drabeck did.
The profit sharing thing in Major League is a curse, not a blessing, because these guys are taking money from other teams. So the Yankees, the Mets, the Cubs, the Dodgers, the Astros, all the Red Sox, all these teams are funneling money to them. They're not putting that money back into their teams, which is what they were supposed to be doing. And to be honest with you, I know they're working on levels of penalties on the cap. There should be penalties on the back end too, where these teams that don't use that money, that go back into it, these teams that the owners are pocketing that as revenue, they're as much to blame as anybody. For the first time in my life, I am I can say that my team is the early 2000s Yankees, right? Steve Cohen has the ability to buy a world championship team without even having to write a check. I'm pretty sure that man walks around with like $700,000 in cash in his back pocket. So you can start handing that out. But it's infrequent, right? It's never been that way for me before. And there's all of these small market teams, that are just not ever going to be competitive because their owners believe that if they just tank, they're going to get more and it's going to happen. And honestly, I think that the Rays make it worse for everybody else because they keep getting it done.
Yeah, with the exception of the rule. And who knows? They might be out of Florida within a decade. That's Jordan's biggest fear. That could happen.
Orlando, that'd be all right. Moving to Orlando.
That's the problem. They won't. Those dudes might be Montreal bound. Yeah, it's crazy.
So let me ask you guys a question. Is the idea on tanking, is that we got teams like the 2015 Royals? Is the idea of tanking? I understand the general, in general, like you choose not to sign your talented players, and because you want to receive compensation for future drafts, and the whole rule when we got draft picks, you got 6 years, give or take 5 or 6 years before you got to pick.
Yeah.
You can have a young talented team, high draft picks, so you can get a low salary cap team, and within that wedge, and as it comes time to start paying those guys, then you bounce them if you haven't, and then you start tanking again and recycle the shitstorm.
That's the mentality, right? Because the reality of what's happening there is that those owners are pocketing the profit sharing instead of putting it back into theirs. So all of this gets rolled into the next part of this conversation. So the players union are asking for the 6 years to be knocked down to 5, right? They also, or if you hit 29 and a half years, whichever happens first. So if you're a late bloomer and you get up and, before your 30th birthday, you can become a free agent. They also want to remove the qualifying offer from as an attachment to a draft pick, because there are teams, to the previous point, like the small market teams that are not willing to give up, like what Texas just did is uncommon of Texas, right? To go out there and sign these guys. So same thing with, we could have re-signed Michael Conforto, but who knows where that's going to go? It's a different conversation. But all of this is the players union trying to chip away at a system that makes the rich get richer, and it makes it harder for the other guys.
In your opinion, what's the end result here?
Well, before we get to the end result, because I was adamantly against, and now after living through a season of what historically may have been, had Jake DeGrom not gotten hurt and pitched the way that he pitched the whole season, something that I would have witnessed in my lifetime that would have gone down in the record books, had he not have to swing the bat and get on base and have, a 3.7 whatever batting average. The universal DH is in effect. Both sides have agreed upon it, so it's going to happen. So there's something positive that came out of this.
Keep careers going, and it's not going to ruin pitching careers when they're not pitching. Look at Ching-Ming Wang.
It's only going to help. Yep. Carlos Delgado would have stayed with the Mets past the 2008 season.
Now it evens out the playing field with aging stars that can't play the field that can go to NL teams now.
Yeah, Fat Prince could have played another couple of years somewhere.
Absolutely. Albert Pujols, who's old. Poppy, hypothetically, could have played in the NL.
We talked about Pat the Bat Burrell in Philly. He retired. He could have stayed another 2-3 years.
Pat Burrell.
Yeah.
Who was the big he was in the Reds, and then he went to the Nationals. I can't remember the top of my head. Adam Dunn. You get all those guys that are historically National League guys, that either end up in an American League team, whatever. So I'm okay with that. So what do I think is happening here is we talked about this 2 weeks ago when Manfred said going into the weekend that Monday things would be fine. It's again, to the first part of this conversation, it's leverage, right? It's these guys are spin doctors. They're taking this and Manfred is the vocal piece for a bunch of billionaires. You had it there, billionaires versus millionaires. Walker Buehler said this is not about millionaires versus billionaires. This is owners versus employees, and this is what it is. There needs to be a change in the system, and honestly, I know it's easy for us to sit here and say, like, Max Scherzer has the luxury of sitting it out and fighting and doing whatever else because he's a generational wealth at this point. But kudos to him for being part of this and doing this, because it's not helping him. What he's asking for is not going to change his life in any way. He's set. I mean, that guy could put it down tomorrow and have a groundhog farm and whatever he wants to do and be happy and content. So these guys are doing what's right. They're working hard to try to make baseball work better for the guys that are coming behind them.
I agree with every point you made. And I said that at the beginning, that I don't feel that this particular potential work stoppage strike, however much time we lose of the game this year, is not greed-driven on the players' part. Back in the mid-'90s, when we had that strike in '94, that's a different conversation.
Yeah,
this particular one, I wholeheartedly believe that the ball players are fighting a little more for the little guy. And I think it's important to preserve the game and make the game better. I couldn't agree more, to be honest.
And I think, to the point I made about the Mets being probably having the most money of anybody right now, there needs to be penalties. That level 1 luxury cap is a fine. Then you lose a draft pick. There needs to be parity. There needs to be balance, right? The NFL's got to figure it out. There's good things here, right? Salary cap.
That's why you don't see a lot of repeats in the NFL.
Franchise tags, all that kind of stuff. They need to work that into here, right? If when Pete comes up for free agency, you get maybe 1-2 seasons to franchise tag him, pay him, a ton of money those 2 years, and then he sticks around or he doesn't. Whatever else it is. To your point about basketball, right? If I let my heart lead this conversation, I would say that my wife shut a light up by mistake. I would say that I want the players to stick it around, right? I want to buy a jersey, right? I have a rule. If you're not with the Mets for at least 3 years in the big leagues, I am not buying your jersey, because I've gotten my fair share of Ryan Church, Angel Pagan. I didn't buy Jason Bay jersey, but same idea. So
I made the Jabba Chamberlain mistake.
Yeah. And Jabba Rules T-shirt. I remember you had one of those too.
Oh God. Okay.
Nothing was funnier than when he didn't he drill Jeter?
I threw his own kid in the father's son.
Yeah.
So, he just quoted Major League. And speaking of Major League,
this guy sneezes, looks like a party fan.
That's it, right? I don't think we're starting on time, and it's unfortunate. And I don't think that these guys are going to budge, and I think they're going to hold off. I think it's going to be, another short.
There'll be baseball, but I hate to say it, I think we're looking at like an 81 game season, no All-Star game.
Again, you know how frustrating that is for me? I have Scherzer and DeGrom at the 1 and 1A spot, and all I want them to do is lose, because I cannot. My stomach is already in knots thinking about them potentially winning a World Series on a shortened season.
Yeah, I get it. It's shitty to have it go down like that.
I'm going to be a Diamondbacks fan this year.
Is this going to prevent Pujols from ever getting to 700 home runs, or maybe passing Babe Ruth?
No, he'll stick around until he gets it. Somebody's going to lob him a couple of.
He's going to hang. We got a guy that hasn't been seen in quite some time, Charlie Sheen, making a return to the small screen. Show has not been named yet, but he's with Doug Ellen, the creator of Entourage, and a couple of faces from Entourage. Kevin Connolly, who played E. Kevin Dillon, who played Drama. His dad, Martin Sheen, from what I understand, is going to be making some cameos. Brett will not be reprising his role as his brother Alan. Yeah. But no, I mean, listen, guy's been sober and clean from what I understand for the better part of 5 years. Yeah, all I'm going to say is when he went down and the Titanic was sinking, led by him, and when he basically shot his career, he was the highest paid actor on TV at the time. by a wide margin. 2.5 Men obviously took a nosedive once Ashton got in there. I hope that they can come up with something creative enough to be relevant. I mean, the man's
He was
57.
also in an adult movie called 2.5 Ladies, but that's a different story.
But Brett will not be back.
It's like the 80s show after the 70s show left town. The 80s show had like one season. And
yeah, that was pretty rough.
2.5 Ladies, bad idea. 2 Broke Girls, bad idea.
I'll make this short and sweet. We all kind of like a comeback story, I guess, right? You think Charlie Sheen has a chance of getting his career back and being relevant again, or you think this is just flash in the pan, gonna nosedive?
Well, he's got tiger blood, doesn't he? Isn't that what he said?
Yeah, he's got a chance.
That's the answer, man. He's got tiger blood.
Yeah.
I mean, the creator from Entourage was a smash.
We love that. We love these stories, especially now. Everything social media. We know, like, these guys have a hangnail. We find out about it. So this is great. People are gonna love it. I mean, personally, I think he's one of the most boring human beings in the world to watch. If you take away a couple of his key roles, I mean, he was in what was the movie with him and his brother, Working Man or Garbage Man or
Working Man. He was good in the Major League movies.
Yeah, it was an ensemble cast. He was a portion of it. We're also maybe foreshadowing the next section for me, but it's okay.
Charlie's coming back strong, which leads us, because we're speaking about degenerates, let's go to baseball degenerates of the small and big screen. First of all, let me explain the rules of start, bench, cut. I give my co-host each 90 seconds to start, bench, and cut the people that I'm going to throw at them. These people are Rick Vaughn, formerly of the Cleveland Indians, who are formerly the Cleveland Indians. Shit, man. I'm going to give you Kenny Powers. Kenny's been around, kind of motivated and inspired by one of the biggest D-bags to ever walk planet Earth in the form of John Rocker. Something that me and Dorney will both agree that we really hate that dude. And how about Jimmy Dugan from A League of Their Own? Rarely sober, coaching women. Felt like flipping a coin, but I can't find one on the floor right here. So
Wags go first.
You want me to go first? I can go first.
How do you feel about going first here, Wags?
I don't mind. This is an easy decision for me.
All right.
Let me
you guys tired. I have a backup one, and that's why I'm glad we got time here.
90 seconds. All right. So I would say this: Rick Vaughn, because you're right. Whichever one of you guys just said, like, he's had a couple of dun-dun-dun movies, but not Major League. Those were great, classic. So he held the start for a long time. He would have held the starting job until 2009 when Eastbound and Down came back out. For me, so my cut is Tom Hanks. He's the best actor of all three of them by far, at least the best body of work. I don't think anybody would disagree with that. But we're talking baseball movies, Degenerates, in the category we're on right here. Tom Hanks is out. Boom, boom. On the bench would be Mr. Wild Thing Rick Vaughn, who had the starting role for, again, 20 years. Major League came out in 89 until 2009, where Kenny Powers, he takes the extreme of the Degenerates. I mean, alcoholic, drug addict, womanizer, racist, homophobic piece of shit. But somehow he does it with style, doing cockfights in Mexico, season 2. So start, Kenny Powers, bench, Rick Vaughn, cut, Tom Hanks, and A League of Their Own.
All right, so I'm going to make sure I got this right. So your starter is Kenny Powers?
Kenny Powers.
Your bench is Charlie Sheen, Rick Vaughn, and you're getting rid of Jimmy Dugan and Tom Hanks.
Sorry, Jimmy.
All right. You're good. I gave you a little more time, so all good. I'm going to let Dorney jump.
Sorry about that.
No, it's okay. It's okay. Nobody ever goes under 90 seconds.
Fair enough.
There's a joke there for you, Rich, but I'll let it go. So Tom Hanks, not a degenerate, right? Just an alcoholic, a lovable alcoholic. Right. So I'm going to start with that. Great movie. great character. He made that movie. He was integral to that, and I'm making that a point for a reason. Now we're gonna go to Ricky Vaughn over here. I said it before. He was part of an ensemble cast. He was the closer. He had one pitch. He fucked up most of the time. Plus, when he was all bougie and preppy, annoyed me through the whole movie. He should have just stuck with it. Also, who's afraid of that guy? I mean, a little bit of arm flab. There was nothing there. And then we get to the man himself, KP, right? La Flama Blanca, coming out to.
I forgot about the nickname. Yeah.
Coming out of the bullpen to that, right? Kenny Powers, hands down. Just, yes, John Rocker was the impetus to that, and I hate John Rocker. Anybody from New York hates John Rocker, but you do not get better than Kenny fucking Powers. So, Wags, you're fucking out. KP is starting. Jimmy Dugan's passed out on the bench, and Charlie Sheen's getting a blood transfusion somewhere.
All right. This is the thing. I both agree with your lead male there as the all-time degenerate. On the bench, Dorney made some good points as to why he's not a Rick Vaughn guy. You made some good points as to why you're not a Jimmy Dugan guy. I think this calls for round 2. And the cool thing is we have 14 more minutes. So I kind of set this up on purpose to make sure we had a round 2. So we're going to do round 2 of Start Bench Cut. Brett, man of many thoughts. Maybe I'm giving him too much credit there. Came up, calls me on his way to work with the good chef Raul. And he's like, hey, if we were in a hypothetical war, who would we want to run with from movies that you just know you're going to kick ass, bottom line? And I'm going to call this one the 3 Johns. I'm going to go with John Wick, John Rambo, and John Kreese. You boys, once again, have 90 seconds. I guess we'll flip it back to you, Wags. John Kreese, John Rambo, and John Wick.
Is this the Degenerate? We're going like stability.
You guys tied in the Degenerate round, so this is like a bonus round to get somebody's first win here on Start Bench Cut.
All right.
This guy's grabbing whiskey. He's like, what do you got there anyway, Rich? Do a little promotion here.
The company that I actually work for.
Yes, sir. Whistle Pig.
100 proof, 10-year.
All right, Wax.
Nice shine.
All right.
You're up, Wax.
Here's a shot out of the dark. There's only one good guy that has a mental stability, even though it's just a kill show. That body, which is similar to Rambo 2 and 3. Maybe not the first one. The first one was more about hiding out in the woods, getting chased by the locals, and with the cameo of David Caruso as a young
Rocky.
as a young man.
Keep going.
Then, First Blood, yeah, John Rambo. I mean, yeah. So I'm going to go with John Wick. If this is a Start Bench Cut, I'm going to go with John Wick just as a character who's the good guy. He's killing people for a good reason. John Rambo, I'm definitely put John Kreese. He's a complete psychopath. I don't know if you guys watch Cobra Kai, but
sure.
He's a mind fucker. All right, doesn't care if you're a kid or not. He will. So I'm as far as good to bad, I'm fucking cutting him. All right. If you're going psychopath role, I'm starting him. All right, but I got to cut him, and I'm going to put John Rambo in the middle because you never really know. You're never sure what you're going to get with Rambo, especially with the fact that it's Sylvester Stallone who's gotten the most golden raspberries of any actor in the history of fuck bunch.
That's Brett's hero, by the way, Mr. Stallone. So we're going for you.
Hey, Brett.
So for you, we're going. Wick is your starter.
Yeah.
Cut. And your bench is
Kreese.
Your bench is Kreese. So who'd you end up cutting? You ended up cutting
I'm sorry. When I said bench, I meant the guy who the low in the totem pole. I'm cutting Crease. My bench is Rambo.
Okay, I got you. Wick, Rambo, Crease. Dorney, you're up.
The three giants.
So I'm going to work in reverse. I'm going to go with cut, bench, start, because I want to,
Yeah.
So, I don't even know why we're having a conversation about John Crease. I mean, Pat Morita was 5'3" and said, live or die, man. That's all I have to say to that, right? A little bit of a honk to the nose, and the guy was done. So forget about him. John Wick is going to be on my bench as a backup. Great hand-to-hand specialist, but we're talking about going to war. We're talking about people everywhere and having to kill people and do whatever else. And, his training with Hoist Gracie and his BJJ and all that stuff that he's going to do. A couple of guys here or there, but someone's going to shoot him from way off. That's the end of it. You got a guy here who's fucking John Rambo, right? I mean, that's it. That's it. You said the first movie he hung out, hid in the trees, hid in the bushes, did whatever else. That's what we're talking about here. He's going to war. So I've seen him with the rocket launcher. I've seen him with the Bowie knife. Stallone for the kill.
All right. This is the reality of everything. Both of you guys tied again. I'm giving Dorney the W, though, and I'm going to explain why. Because he played Real American, and Wags, you didn't.
Well, I'll rip my shirt off right now, too.
That's the only. Other than that, you guys basically were on like straight tie. But I had to come up with some kind of edge here. Also, the fact that I could see my reflection off his cranium. But yeah, he had that ready with the KP one. I thought about giving him the dub. I saw he had more time. I said, you know what? Let's tie this. Let's keep it going. Slight edge to Dorney on this. Guys, I appreciate the time. Anything you guys want to say on the way out? Wags, I understand you got some music endeavors. You had a few minutes if you want to speak on anything or any new work or anything that you're looking to do in the near future.
I spent a couple months playing with the Intercoastals based out of New Smyrna Beach. I'm no longer with them, and that is because of my fault. I'll just get that out of the way. I got back into the party aspect. I don't mean the thing that I'm recovering from. No, that's none of that crap. The party aspect, of playing, performing, practicing, and it got in the way of my production with the band. So I was removed for that, and that's my fault. I'm putting that to the side. As you see tonight, I got the Coke Zero. I'm going back to my own personal music. We're talking about my friend Croc out of Indiana. Maybe getting another video. I haven't. It's going to be probably a song that I've already written. Getting another video out. The last one we put out last year, April 8th, was the Let It Go. That was the one we shot in Vegas right before. This is at Ryan Wags Music on Instagram. RYANWAGZ music on Instagram. That was the song called Let It Go. So that was what we've been working on before. Like I said, the last few months I've been with the Intercoastals. I just got removed from them a week and a half ago. So kind of recovering from that right now and looking forward to seeing what the future holds.
All right. Well, thank you for sharing where you're going to be on. That's you said on IG, right?
Yeah.
And I believe you have that video up on YouTube also. I do.
It is on YouTube. You just type in, Ryan Wags, Let It Go. And you'll see it. It's me standing on a rock out in Red Rock. That's the still screen you'll see when you pull it up on YouTube. Thanks, Richie.
Awesome.
Appreciate that. Yeah.
No, you're good, bro. Rich, gotta get you out of Florida soon, man.
I don't want to really offend any of your listeners, but I hate Florida. So there's that answer. I'm actually coming out of Jacksonville for work in April, but I won't be able to see you because I'm going in and coming back. No, man, keep it up, dude. You're doing great. Love it. I'd like to pop in more often and spend some time with you. It gives me a place to speak my piece about what's going on.
Yeah.
No, I'm gonna just spend 30 seconds. I'm really upset. I'm really disappointed in this fucking lockout because I could taste it, man. I could taste it when Scherzer signed and these guys went out and got, for the first time in my fucking life, the Mets didn't sign the B and C guys. They went out and got the fucking guys. And I remember sitting there being like, something's gonna happen. We're gonna find a fault line in New York when the first earthquake ever in Queens is gonna disappear. Or God knows what, but
no, it's messed up, dude. 94, the guy behind me, Don Mattingly, my favorite ball player. He got screwed out of a chance to play in the World Series.
Speaking of baseball degenerates, this is my favorite baseball degenerate. So I'm glad he's
That's
getting
right behind you, right? That's
Is that Ron Darling?
Harvey.
Oh, Matt Harvey. Gotcha.
Yeah. Anyway, we'll see what happens, but
You guys re-signed, so you guys have your middle infield is going to be Baez and Lindor. Is that right?
no, Baez is gone. He went to the Tigers. You can try to explain that to me.
And while we're on the topic, fuck you, AJ Hinch. Yeah, he's a Tiger. And so's AJ Hinch. Logo coming soon, guys. Having a lot of fun doing this show, little by little, just going through the brand change. So, football season is behind us. So, yeah, we need some baseball, guys. We definitely need some baseball. Rich, you were awesome tonight, man. I really think you killed that baseball topic. I liked listening to you guys with that start bench cut. Both made some valid points. And even with that top 20 list, I think that top 20 list, you guys are both really strong, making some excellent points. I think the highlight of anything I did on this show was basically just letting the viewing audience know that Brett will not be returning to play the role of Alan alongside fictitious brother Charlie Sheen. But good job.
I accidentally dropped a fork in a blender before I started a batch of margaritas, and that was more entertaining than listening to Brett.
This might start a bit of a controversy, maybe a feud. If we don't have baseball season, this might be something that's going to carry us. We might have to start promoting this feud between Baby Dable and Brett himself. Wags, not sure if you saw the new Giants coaching hire, but basically he looks like potentially he could have been Dorney's father. You give that a look at your own convenience. We're out, guys.
What is his name?
Brian Dable. We gotta get off it.
You just don't know his face. Yeah, Dable. Yeah.
Yeah, check him out. You tell me that's not blood relation right there.
Oh, I see it.
Yeah, look at him.
Look at this beard, though.
Can you flip your screen and show the viewer like what this Mr. Dable looks like here?
Talking to me?
Yeah, can you grab your phone real quick just to do like a little flip screen, just to we get the dual shot of Dorney and Dable?
Oh yeah, I'm not even using my phone. I'm on my laptop.
He's on a computer.
Up.
Welcome to 2022, Richard.
Dorney, can you get that? Yeah, exactly. I'm
also on Twitter. It's all right. They'll get the joke.
At any rate, guys.
Dorney, doppelganger, Dable. Enough said.
We're out. Guys, thank you so much. We can still chat for a few, but I'm going to cut us out of here right now before we hit that hour mark. Thank you so much. Subscribe on YouTube. Peace.
Still 2:45.